The taxpayer-funded theater that showed an explicit play to kids wants their grants without any questions. Today, I'll show you the evidence.
The saucy part came from Just Bins, which is a site where people upload trash, racy, terrible things about the community. And that's when a student had inappropriately recorded a scene from the show and uploaded it, and misinformation was taken and gathered from that.
The Regina Globe Theatre is big upset, not because students complained about explicit content they were exposed to on a school field trip at the Globe Theatre, because that did happen, not because parents raised concerns afterwards, because that definitely happened.
I think they should be punished. Like, there should be some type of, like, punishment towards them for bringing children to a show like that, especially without parental consent or even just any information in school board, even not even consent from the students attending. Like there was some students who were very upset. There was children who had cried. There was some religious students who were very disturbed.
Not because journalists reported on it. Well, actually, they are upset about that too.
The fact that this has turned into a quite a violent response with death threats against the artists. We had to have police officers in the theater to protect the artists and the audience from the death threats that came as a result of this thing that happened on a website that should never be quoted. It should never be given any attention because it is only trash. So there are two things that emerged from that.
No, this taxpayer-funded theater in Regina, Saskatchewan is upset because members of parliament asked them questions about kids being shown a graphically explicit play in the name of Indigenous reconciliation. That's the controversy here. The Globe Theatre recently wrote to the House of Commons Heritage Committee to complain about Conservative MPs Kevin Waugh and Kerry Diot after they questioned a theatre official about a controversial drag-themed production that had been shown to students as young as 14.
Theater, your thoughts on Little Red Warrior and the comedy that took place with Regina Campbell Collegiate. Was there a misunderstanding on the age? Clarification, 14, 16-year-olds. I'm going to give you some time now because it is 6:30 in Saskatchewan and you knew this question was coming. So can you clarify what happened?
Wow, that's interesting. First of all, the Little Red Warrior is a play. Let me take a step back. What your question is addressing, and it comes off the previous conversation, is the idea of cultural diversity and diversity of communities and diversity of ideas. And the idea that we live in a community with multiple realities and cultural realities is something the arts gets to show off and embrace. In terms of Little Red Warrior, this was a play that has been produced across the country. It's by a Governor General Award winning playwright. This play has been produced for students for high school matinees many times. The production, the script was available to the teachers. The script follow-up conversations were had with the schools and with the teachers, and the content was revealed to them.
Now, to be clear, the MPs weren't rude. They weren't hostile. They didn't call for censorship. They didn't demand the production be canceled. They didn't demand funding cuts. They simply asked polite questions theater officials didn't want to answer. If you don't believe me, take a look at this.
One of the students who was interviewed by media after the performance said it was supposed to focus on Indigenous issues and reclaiming Indigenous land, but I feel the play lost the plot. It was kind of all about sex. Would you agree?
First of all, there was another student who said there was no big deal when they were interviewed by the CBC. So there's a diversity of opinion and responses to it. In terms of the play, it was a farce, and it was about Indigenous land claims. And the farce and the sauciness in the play was related to those issues that were going on. So
all right.
If that's what they felt, that's fine.
It's also been reported that the Globe Theatre, I'm not sure if it was you, responded to concerns about the content in the performance. There were concerns from parents expressed, and somebody from the Globe Theatre said parents were being transphobic and homophobic. Do you think it's fair that just simply because they didn't want their children to see fairly lewd behavior in a play?
It wasn't lewd behavior in a play. There was no lewd behavior in the play. There was sauciness in the play that is seen in Bridgerton, in children's TV shows and young people's TV shows that are going on right now. So no, I disagree with the premise of the question, but I will say that student parents have a right to speak up about what they want to speak up about. And what happened that drives me nuts is that conversation didn't get to happen because Just Bins and the national press came up and made misinformation and lied about what was in the thing.
But that was apparently too much accountability for some people in Canada's arts establishment.
I want to remark to members, you may have seen this letter from a witness from last week that we got in our inboxes recently. I'll read it out. It's from Jennifer Bruin of the Globe Theatre. She appeared on May 28th, meeting number 39. She says, I have concerns about comments made by two members of the committee, MPs Terry Diot and Kevin Waugh, on May 28th, 2026. They voiced complaints about a play presented by Regina's Globe Theatre. Go ahead.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm just curious as to since when it is customary practice that we read the correspondence that are sent to this committee. I've never seen this done before.
No, it's not common, but I thought it was a good point for this committee to talk about how we treat witnesses going forward.
Okay.
This is a witness who felt very attacked on a topic that didn't have anything to do with the subject we were studying. And so I just perhaps wanted to ask members to be sensitive to the fact that a lot of the witnesses we invite appear in good faith. They're not politicians, and we should treat them with respect.
Sure. So on that point of order, I can understand that, and I do think that we need to conduct ourselves with respect at this committee, both towards our colleagues across the way as well as, of course, the witnesses that are coming. My concern is that there are two individuals that are named in this. They are certainly not the only ones who have asked questions that have caused discomfort at this table. There have been members from all parties that have done that over the time that we've been at this committee. And so it seems like these individuals, then, my colleagues, are being targeted because you're choosing to read their names into the record, when actually you could just simply remind the members at this table that we do need to be respectful. So, Chair, I would ask you to reconsider.
I think that's a fair comment, and I'm happy to leave it at that. Just that members keep in mind that we invite witnesses in good faith to come and give us their thoughts on a specifically stated study topic, and we shouldn't veer too far from that or treat them as if they're politicians who are on the firing line. Mr. Waugh?
Madam Chair, you've read the names of myself and Mr. Diot into the records already this morning. Is there any way you can omit those?
I'm sorry?
Is there any way that you can omit what you have just said? My name is already on record this morning, so is Mr. Diot's. So you've already, kind of a point of privilege here, you've already mentioned both of our names, and that's not customary around this table or any other committees. And I'm just wondering how we can solve this issue. Is there any way that you can strike the record of both of our names, which you just said?
I'm not sure. Mr. Clerk? No, there is no way. We'll leave it where it is, Mr. Waugh. I am sorry if you feel that your privilege was damaged in any way, but just to make the point that we did get this letter, I found it concerning, and we'll move on from there. Mr. Diot?
Point of order that, I mean, I had comments on those videos saying, well, she gave as good as she got. So I think I gave her full opportunity to rebut any of the statements that I made or the questions that I had. So.
I would agree with that. I think she handled herself very well. And yeah, I just wanted to make the point that we should be sensitive. And I apologize for reading those names.
What makes this story especially remarkable is that the concerns didn't originate with these politicians. The concerns originated with the students themselves. Students who attended the performance later described feeling uncomfortable with what they saw. Some said the content was sexually explicit because it was. Some said they felt trapped because they were attending as part of a school field trip, if you can believe it. Parents complained. The media covered those complaints, including Rebel News' own Lise Merle.
I think that there should be being more done to make sure this kind of incident doesn't happen again.
Yeah, I think that everyone deserves an apology that went and had no idea, and I think the Globe does deserve to be punished for what they chose to willingly choose children without their knowledge. So.
And also just while we're at it, we took time out of our day to go there and watch a play and then didn't even get to fully watch a play. I think something should be done about that.
You got gypped of a field trip.
Yes. Field trip of the year, and then we had to leave early and it was actually terrible. So it was really awkward. I feel like
there should be more being done to be made up to the children who had to go see that than just being
you'll have your money
refund
back
for your ticket. That's not really enough. You kind of just showed a whole bunch of grade 12s, and grade 9s, naked pole dancing and boobs and shaking breasts in people's faces.
Back
not
for Queen
okay.
Elizabeth. This was just horrible on her name.
Yeah.
And then elected representatives did what elected representatives are supposed to do when taxpayers have concerns about a taxpayer-funded institution. They asked questions. That's how democracy is supposed to work. But somewhere along the way, parts of Canada's publicly funded arts sector seem to have convinced themselves that accountability is optional, even when it comes to other people's children.
One quick question.
Yeah.
What does a pole dancing drag queen have to do with teaching about Indigenous land claims?
I think you should see the play and find out, or read it.
I think that this play was appropriate for grade 9 students.
No grade 9 student was at the show. They were grade 10, 11, and 12. At Campbell Collegiate, we gave them the content and the warning of what was in what was in the show, and they did not bring the grade 9 students as a result. That's the kind of misinformation that Just Bins and the National Post picked up from Just Bins, which is a trashy site that is misinformation about the show. So until someone sees the show, reads the content, reads the reviews from across the country from the shows that were in it, and the teachers who did come to see it, and the parents who did bring their children to see it, we can have a big conversation. That's what was the coolest thing that happened out of this terrible, terrible misrepresentation of the story, was that really cool conversations could have happened between parents and content and arts organizations.
They think that government money should arrive without scrutiny, that taxpayers should fund their programming but remain silent about the content, that elected officials should approve the grants and then just politely disappear. Sorry, that's not how public funding works. The Globe Theatre receives taxpayer support. That means taxpayers have a right to know what they're funding and who they're showing these productions to. And taxpayers have every right to expect their elected officials to ask questions on their behalf.
I'd like to give Ms. Bruin a chance to talk about what was mentioned earlier by my colleague, the play, the performance called Little Red Warrior and His Lawyer. It was put on for high school students in Regina. It talked about Indigenous issues and reclaiming Indigenous land and so forth. I know that the play's creator is quite well-reputed author and playwright. He told CBC the show has some, quote, pretty racy content, end quote.
In fact, that's literally why these parliamentary committees exist. The Heritage Committee isn't a fan club. It's not a promotional arm for government-funded arts organizations. It's an oversight committee. Its purpose is to examine how public money is being spent. Its members are expected to ask difficult questions of witnesses, sometimes uncomfortable questions, especially when children are involved. And let's be honest about what was actually being asked here. Kevin Waugh, who represents Saskatchewan taxpayers, wasn't launching some sort of ideological crusade. He was asking why sexually explicit material was being represented as appropriate to teenagers on a school field trip. Carrie Diot, he wasn't trying to censor anybody in the arts community. He was asking whether that was an appropriate use of public funding. Those are legitimate questions. Reasonable people can disagree about the answers or what should be considered art, but nobody should be offended by the questions themselves. And what makes this theater's complaint so revealing is that it reflects a growing attitude among publicly funded cultural institutions. It's an attitude that criticism somehow equals censorship or meanness. It's an attitude that disagreement equals harassment, an attitude that accountability equals persecution. It's an extraordinary level of entitlement, actually. Imagine a hospital administrator complaining because MPs questioned healthcare spending. Imagine a Crown Corporation filing a complaint because parliamentarians scrutinized a multi-billion-dollar project. Imagine a university writing angry letters because legislators asked about course content. We would all just laugh. What a bunch of crybabies. Public institutions are accountable to the public. That's the deal. Otherwise, just do it privately. Yet some arts organizations seem to believe they occupy a special category where public money comes with no public scrutiny. They want government funding. They want tax dollars. They want grants. They want subsidies. They want access to your kids. And then they downplay degeneracy as spicy or cheeky or saucy.
Would you agree this is a fairly racy play?
No, it's a saucy play. It's a satire. It's a satire about land claims and land rights, but I wouldn't call it racy. I'd call it saucy. I'd call it bratty. I'd call it irreverent. And as I said before, it's been produced across the country.
But what they don't want are answers. Unfortunately for them, those things come as a package. You don't get one without the other. Many cultural institutions pride themselves on challenging authority. They celebrate questioning power. They encourage difficult conversations. They claim to speak truth to power until somebody asks them a difficult question. Then suddenly questioning authority becomes inappropriate and tattling, I guess, becomes the solution. Suddenly scrutiny becomes offensive. Suddenly accountability, well, that's a threat. Globe Theatre had every opportunity to defend its programming. It could have addressed the very real concerns raised by students. It could have reassured parents. It could have made its case before Parliament and before the public. Instead, it chose to complain about being asked. And that's the real story here. Because the issue here isn't one play, although this play is dangerously problematic being shown to kids. It's not even one theater. It's a mindset. Canadians are tired of being told parents shouldn't ask questions. They're tired of being told taxpayers should pay the bills while keeping their opinions to themselves. If the Globe Theatre believes its programming choices were appropriate, then it should welcome the opportunity to explain why. And they can park the snark. But don't complain when members of Parliament do the job taxpayers expect them to do. This theater isn't above scrutiny. Government grants aren't above scrutiny. And taxpayer-funded organizations certainly aren't above scrutiny, arts or not. People paying the bills deserve answers, and MPs asking those questions deserve credit for doing their jobs. For Rebel News, I'm Sheila Gunn Reid. I'm not alone. I believe many Canadians stand with me when I say that it was absolutely atrocious that this graphically sexual play was shown to students as young as 14. And I think it's horrific that it was done under the nose of the school board. A lot of the grooming we see being done to children in Canada happens in the classroom. To sign our petition against this, please go to stopclassroomgrooming.com.